Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Star Drive 2 Shipbuilding tutorial. Today I want to give you a little insight, a little more information about how to build ships, why to build them, and what differences there are. Well, first and for all, let me say that choosing the face of your race also decides the interior, exterior, and the type of ships you're getting. Meaning, if you're for example an Opteris or an Korathi, you will be able to build combat corvettes because they have the space for that kind of ship layout. If you're playing any other race, there will be no real combat corvettes at all. Furthermore, some races get really big and bulky titans at the end, and some are getting more like, well, cruisers on a little bit more than that. That is because the Wulfgar, for example, have very little ships. The Opteris has one of the best ships in all design sizes. They come in corvettes, frigates, cruisers, battleships and titans. And there is else to know that the bigger the ship is, the more you have to stop in to get it ready. 75% of the ship must be occupied to get it space worthy. And that means that a Wulfgar ship is far earlier able to launch with far less equipment and therefore far cheaper than, for example, a cruiser of the Opteris. So let's start with basics. Let's start with weapons. There are a lot of different weapons. They come in all sizes and in all firing angles and in all weights. But the most important thing is the range. For example, artillery has a range of 800 miles or meters, whatever you like, distance modifier. They hit very rarely and they're quite heavy when you compare that, for example, to a laser cannon. This has a weight of 9 and takes 6 hammers to build without modifications. And if you're going for laser cannons, for example this one here, you will notice 3 hammers and 4.5 mass reduction. Oh, we have a mass reduction, so, well, but it's still a comparison because they both get the same mass reduction. So you know what I mean. It differs in weight, and it differs in hammers, and it differs in size. Furthermore, there are the arcs. You see, this weapon has a very narrow forward arc, and if you put it in the side, it has a very narrow sideward arc. If you compare that, for example, with the rocket launch turret, you will notice a bigger arc. If you want to even enhance that arc, because you want to fire in a wider angle, just use arc extend, like this. Impressive, isn't it? This is even more important than you think, because let's say you build a ship like this. Bum, 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 bum. What is the result? You have an excellent firepower to the left, you have an excellent firepower to the right, and it will not help you any, because unless you are Nelson, and unless you are fighting at Trafalgar, and unless you use the Nelson touch maneuver, which means you go directly through the enemy, firing left and right, this weapon layout will help you nothing at all. Because while you are approaching to the enemy, you will not be able to fire on him, and he will be able to use his combined firepower on you if he builds his ships right. That maneuver is called the crossing T, and it's used by battleships. So this is not good. What you can do better is go for arc extend, and guess what happens? You will have 180-degree firepower, which means you can fire while running through in the direction of the target, and wherein you're in the middle of the target, you can fire left and right at your own disposal, and you will be hitting a lot. So arc extend, very important. Range extend, yes, you can do that. You see, it does a little bit, but it also costs you more hammers and more mass. Why is that evil? Hammers means it will take more time to build the ship, more money to buy it instantly. And mass increase means the ship gets slower, not only by propulsion forward, but also by turning left and right, which means if you put too many weapons in it, the enemy will be able to outmaneuver you quite easily. There are weapons that are so big that they do not fit in most ships, like the Death Ray. Look at this. I mean, seriously. There are not many ships that can carry that weapon at all. Wulfgar ships probably will only the Titan will be able to field one of these weapons, when compared to, well, let's say, the Opteris, who can field, well, quite a number of those terrible weapons, actually. So, ship size does matter, weapon size does matter. And when you look at this 2350 range, that's not bad, but, well, let's take a simple starting weapon for comparison. Let's say we take the normal spiral rocket, which is one of my favorite weapons. And we take a very small ship like this one, and we simply go for overload. Look what happens. 1000 damage at 750 range. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my god, do you have any idea how much firepower this thing is firing with one salvo? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13,000 damage with one single hit at double the range. Impressive, isn't it? So, if you go for weapons, I think that spiral is the best, because normally you will be facing the enemy right front of you. And you do not have to turn left and right to do that. He will be coming in your direction anyway. And that way he will never arrive at your position. You could go for rapid fire to make it a little bit more faster, but have a look at the weight and the hammers, but still, doing this will make the ship even more deadly. And this is a weapon you have right from the start. There's no need to research anything. This ship can take down nearly any target you like with quite efficiency without getting endangered because of its great range. In case that you get endangered, there is one thing about armor you should know. I think we're done with weapons now. There are only two kinds of weapons you should know about. These are the rockets, the spiral ones, they are the best, and the artillery, because, well, you can destroy the enemy before he gets into your range. All the other weapons, well, ion beams are quite good because they hit often. All the other weapons are not that important. You can use them and try them out at your own disposal. I personally only recommend rockets, artillery, and for the start, if you have nothing else, flak cannons for self-defense. Oops. Let's do them. Rapid fire, arc extend, and rage extend, so that they can defend the ship if needed. But actually, that's only an extra. You don't really need flak cannons in this design. So let's go one step further. Go for defenses. What is there to know about defenses? You can armor your ship all around. Armor applies where it is taken, which means if the enemy is coming from the left, you should have armor here. If the enemy is coming from the right, you should have armor here. If the enemy is coming from front, the armor should be here. And if the enemy is coming from behind, the armor is here. And so you say, oh, why not do this and that? Excuse me, when will the enemy come from behind? Fighters might come from behind. And if you let anyone else get behind you, you're doing it wrong. No armor behind. You don't need that. What you can do is do this. That will be a very, very, very tough little ship, because the first damage that will come will go right through your frontal armor. And then even this ship armed with rockets will live a long, long time. Armor applies where it is taken. Take the armor in front. Don't take armor left and right unless you are expecting to fight crystals, which are very, very fast and will break through your lines within seconds. Or you're fighting the black ships of the masters. They are quite fast too, and that's the reason they will get through to you. Shields. Shields are in the middle of the ship. Not left, not right, not forward, not back. Why? Because shields only apply to the entire ship when they're placed in the middle. If you place ships left and right, they will only protect that side. So ships go in the middle. Well, take a smaller one here. All other defenses like EMCs, defensive flares, are for the bucket if you ask me, because they only work against rockets, which means the enemy must have rockets for that part of your ship to work. Unless they have it, it's useless. Second, it can be used only against rockets, meaning if you take flak cannons, for example, they will be able to take down fighters, missiles, and ships that come too close. So they are worth their ton point for point against 3 different types of target. These ones will be only effective against missiles. So I recommend don't take them. Systems. Well, that goes from ordnance, which keeps you firing. Don't forget, your ships are ordnance hungry if you build them like that. But remember also, there is no reason to carry too much ordnance into battle. Meaning, let's say you have 1 rocket launcher and 400 tons of rockets. Yes, you can fire for a long time, but you will not live that long, because an enemy who has 400 missile launches and 1 missile each will take you out within 1 second. So don't overdo ordnance. If you have 120 seconds of ordnance, that's more than enough for most battles. You don't need more. You're mainly defending your colonies, or you're attacking colonies and then you're taking them, so you can replenish there. If it goes another way around, you're doing it wrong and things are going down the bucket anyway. So not more than 120 seconds of firepower for missile weapons. The same goes for fuel. You can have up to 750, I do not know how many fuel in your ship. You don't need it. You're not going to cruise around the galaxy on a joyride. You're attacking or defending colonies. That's about the game. That is what it is all about. If you need, you'll start with an Coopteris or with an explorer ship anyway, and that ship is loaded with fuel. And as the fuel is distributed along the fleet, you can simply put the explorer into your fleet right from the start when it's done its 3 or 4 exploration of the systems. Then put him into the fleet and he will supply your battle fleet with the fuel, because it's divided along the entire fleet. So don't take too much fuel. It takes up space in your ship. So now what else is there to know about systems? There are reactors. More energy is good because energy keeps your shields up, energy keeps your energy weapons firing. If you've got no shields, if you've got no real propulsion, if you've got no energy weapons, just try to take this number positive, unless that number is positive, your ship will not launch. And then if you have shields and if you have energy weapons, try to make that number high, because that means that you can fire for a longer period. Let's go back to the ship. We want rapid fire and we want overload. We don't take arc extend because we have no reason to do so. Just to show you how a ship can be built. I could do this, for example. What good will that do me? I could put something in here, yes, but I better take the armor in front to live longer. So we've said we're taking armor. Let's take the steel armor. Let's build a ship that you can build right from the start, just to show you. See this? So, systems. Engines. I will show you more about the engines when I switch to the Wulfgar in a second, but the thing you should know is go for fusion engines, not for fusion power, because fusion engines are the only engines that are available besides the basic engines, and they're 100% more effective. This ship, look at this, it moves with 6 and it turns with 9. Not that this ship had to turn, but it is quite clumsy and we do not even have reactors in it. I mean, look at this. Let's put a reactor in this. I think we need 2. Oh boy, we even need 3. Fill up the rest with ordnance. We have only 54 seconds. You know what I mean? And this armor, we're not even fast. So as we know that we're standing in the battlefield anyway, we just can go for one lousy small engine. We will not turn. Well, that's life. If we can take the enemy out with our initial barrages and he gets past us, well, then we're dead anyway. Besides, most enemies circle around you and then they will get into firing range again. Let's put some ordnance in this. Oh, we can take one. We can take out the reactors. Where is the reactor? Here it is. Maybe 2 small reactors will do. Yes, wonderful. Don't overdo reactors if you don't need to. So, yeah, 102 seconds should be enough. This is a ship that can dish out a lot. Not too much fuel capacity, not too much sensor range. Trust me, you don't need that. You will see the enemy when he's coming. Power capacitor. Useful if you're using energy weapons. It's like a battery, but if you've got enough power generation, you only need one small thing, and that will be enough. Command and information. You will have to research that. It's nice, but it's not necessary, and it comes very late. Basic command. If you can take it into your ship like this, because yes, it will cost you space, but it will do a damage bonus, and it will make the ship cost less command points, which is very, very important. Fighter base. Well, let's look at this ship. This ship is quite expensive in hammers. It costs us 242 hammers. And it does good damage. It does. If we build that in it, it immediately becomes a lot of more cheaper, but it will also do a lot of more damage because fighters have the best range. They will reach the enemy on any place on the battlefield. They are automatically updated. These things are quite cheap when it comes to hammers compared to the damage they do, and they're still quite cheap when it comes to mass, because when you look at this thing here costs 9 a rocket, and this thing here takes up 3 spaces for rocket. Well, actually it's 1/3 less bulky than the same number of rockets, and it will do at least the same amount of damage. Fighters are great. When you build fighters in your ship and you've launched the fighters, you can jump away with your battleship and the fighters will remain on the battlefield and continue fighting. So for example, if you're doing a ship like this and you equip it with, let's say, artillery cannons, yes, and you give him armor as much as you can, that it survives long enough. And then you say, okay, I want to go for missiles. I'm now simply building a ship not designed to be built intentionally, but just to dish out damage for a second here. Just look as the hammers go up. Oh, we can even give me speed boost, rapid fire and heavy. Arc extend only take that with turrets, not with forward weapons. So, just look at this. 374 hammers. There is no engines involved, no power source, no ammunition, nothing. This ship already cost 374 hammers to build. It has a lot of firepower though. Let's try to do the same simply with fighters. $30 hammers and about the same firepower. Not quite exactly, but you know what I mean. Far cheaper, far speedier, far less costly to build. You can even put fighter base in the middle of the ship. You can even put fighter base behind. See that? You can now build simply an engine in it. Let's take a bigger one. Oh, let's take the biggest one actually, so that the ship will even be speedy. Let's take some reactors in it. Nuclear powers. Whoa, 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 whoa. This ship does not even need much power. And then you fill up the rest with something really cheap, which is, I think, armor. Armor is the cheapest. So, just to make the ship operational, to see how much it will cost us to get this ship up and running. So, 100 36 hammers, and you've got a fully operational ship that does a hell of a lot of damage. As the battle starts, it will launch its fighters and it will simply jump away, and the fighters will tear apart any other vessel of the same size easily. Other systems you might think of is nuclear weapons. You should always have a nuclear weapon, or at least two, within any cruiser. Why? Because ground combat battles are not won by ground combat troops, they're won by bombs. You can simply bomb the enemy out of his misery. And out of his colony, by the way. Damage is collateral but bearable, so go for nuclear weapons with every ship you have. There is nothing more disturbing than having one troop transport with you and you're not able to take the enemy down because the ground combat defenses are too strong. With nuclear weapons, this will not happen. You simply bomb them to ashes. Never forget about them. Sensor arrays don't need that. The rest is nice to have, but not even that important. Maintenance engineering, if you can research it, do it, because it will make your ships faster. 20% if you pick the big one, and it will make your ship cost 50% less energy, the big one here, if you have big energy weapons. This is a must-have, main engineering. Well, now you have seen what Opteris can build and how big a ship can get. Let's show you the opposite. These are the Wulfgar. If you want to have tears in your eyes when building ships, go for the Wulfgar. Why? Well, look at this. How are you supposed to make a useful ship out of that crap? You can only fit two kinds of weapons in these little slots, and these are mini rockets or mini point defense lasers. The point defense lasers do so little damage at so little range that it's simply out of the question. The rockets, they do good damage, 120 at least, but yeah, you know what I mean. You can't even make them arc extend, so the side firepower is wasted unless you start encircling your target. And these ships have no armor at all, so they will be instantly destroyed when they're hit. So their corvettes are not much bigger, and their cruisers are simply laughable. If you think of going head on the enemy, I advise you to do what an Ogryn does in Warhammer 40k. Take a big, bad metal plate right in front of your head, that way you will survive a little. And then go for missiles. Overload and rapid fire, because that is the only thing that will save your miserable life. And do this. This way you might be able to see the end of the day. If you are very, 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 very brave, you can do something like this. But look at the hammers. It's incredibly expensive to build this ship. You can get out of all of this and simply say, okay, I want to build the cheap version of it with far less firepower. You see the hammers are going down. But it's still, compared to the cruiser of the Opteris, for example, with its fighters, it's still a very, very costly ship with far less firepower. What can a ship of this type of building actually do? Well, let's look at the enemy. This is a terrible ship. It's a frigate, and it has laser cannons. I don't like laser cannons. They're cheap in hammers, they're small in mass, but they're also quite ineffective. And this ship is armed at the wrong places. I mean, look at this. Left and right armor. This ship will never go close enough to use its left and right armor. But we can now attack them. And we will fight. We have a starbase with us. But I think we don't even need that. I cannot stop it from firing, though. I cannot make it retreat. But what we do is we simply start firing at the target. There you see our missiles going. There you see our missiles going. Our little friend here is trying to avoid as best as he can. This might go in. And he's out. 10,800 damage with one missile salvo. This would have even threatened a black ship. or a remnant ship easily. So you can do damage with Wulfgar ships after all. One more thing, when you build ships, try to stay with one kind of weaponry, because your ships are getting medals for using special weaponry. For example, if you're killing a lot of enemies with fighters, you get a fighter medal with the ship, so all its fighters will do more damage. If you're doing a lot of damage with rockets, all your rocket weapons will do more damage. So don't mix weapons if you can. Stay with one kind of weapon and simply deal with that one. There are other races as well. Let's have a look at them. And here we are with the Kulrathi. The Kulrathi build not the biggest ships in the end, but they build the biggest corvettes. Look at this beauty. An artillery cannon fits right in front of it, compared or assisted by, for example, 2 missile turrets with arc extend. Oh, excuse me, arc extend I meant. So, any idea what this kind of ship can do to an enemy? Yeah. And if you cannot imagine, let me show you that. We have got 6 of our corvettes, small ships in the game. They come for free, as many as you have command points. And the enemy has 4 corvettes, 4 frigates, which are armored. Well, this one is actually a scout. 3 frigates and 4 corvettes armed with missiles all the way down to Paris. And they're even armored. Well, let's see what we can do. Why did only 2 of my ships go there? Nobody knows. We don't care. So, let's fight them. One thing you should know about close combat, and that is about ship combat, that is stay together if you can, because the more your ships stay together, the more they will defend each other. What does that mean? That means if an enemy is firing, for example, rockets at us, and all our ships are staying close together, there is a high chance that our fire will destroy the enemy rockets coming straight for us. You will see in a second what I mean. These are the little enemy corvettes. They're armed with missile launchers. We will now order our ships. Well, we do not even have to order them. They're firing by themselves. Woohoo! First hit! And the ship is already yellow in front, because they're not armored at all. Well, mine are not too, but we don't even need that. We're not hitting a lot with artillery, because the enemy ships are so small. Oh, he got another one, right in the nose. And now they will start using their missiles. See that? And we will start using our plasma cannons, which is a technology that is easily researched. And as you can see, we're destroying many of the rockets before they can even reach us. So would you please take the enemies out? One is out. Second is out. We're not hitting very well at the moment. Third is out. And oh, excuse me, there was one frigate destroyed without us even looking at it. And this one is the last, and he's destroyed as well. We didn't lose a single ship. We did a hell of a lot of damage. And all that with corvettes. We could have done the same with rockets. We didn't even need the plasma weapons. Simple ship design. And that is where the engines come in. I told you I will show you about the engines. These have 8, 12 in speed and maneuverability. Turning speed is very important in this game, because then you can face the enemy. If we take basic engines, look what happens. 3 to 5. Compared to 8 and 12. It's more than 100% more effective when it comes to engines Go for fusion engines. Very important. So, as you have seen what those guys can do, let's have a little look what the enemy builds. So, here we are with, I think it's the Polyps. That is an initial design, as you can see, a cruiser armed with 2 nuclear weapons to bombard the enemy, flak cannons to get rid of enemy fighters and missiles, fighter base, and a lot of artillery. It's a quite good ship. It's not armored, it does not have to be. The enemy will never come that far damaging this ship. When you look at the enemy, look what they have to offer. Exploration frigates, another, oh, they only have exploration frigates, okay. So, here, that's a missile ship. Nice idea, but simply not effective enough. The same with lasers and, well, we know that kind of ship, do we? They're pirates. What is there to know about pirates? Pirates, we know that ship. A lot of laser cannons, not that well built. In comparison to this ship, very dangerous. Why? Because it has a fighter bay for one. Because it has missiles. And it has 3 shield generators, which means this ship can take a hell of a lot of damage before it goes out. Only positive thing is, only the class 1 shield in the middle will protect the front, and the front is not armored. Bad thing is, there are no weapons in the front, there's just the fighter bay, so if you destroy a component, it will most likely be the fighter bay, and that will not lower the enemy ship's combat ability because the fighters have already started right in front of the battle. The fusion engines make the ship incredibly fast. These pirate cruisers will be upon you before you know it, and they have these iron beams that most likely always hit and do considerable damage. As for the Remnants, you will encounter those. You see, they're not armored. They simply rely on their shields to protect them. They're extremely slow. Well, not extremely, but they are slow compared to the bigger counterparts. And they have this photon torpedo that can do damage, and they've got disruptor cannons. But all in all, there's not that much damage waiting for you when compared to these little guys here. Look at the speed. This is a cruiser with 23 speed. They will be upon you before you know it. They are armored all around. Why is that important? Because they will run through to you, and they will start circling within your fleet, firing left and right and back and forward, and that will do a hell of a lot of damage. They have got fusion beams that do a lot of damage. They've got mass drivers that do a lot of damage and at great ranges while they approach you, and they've got these wonderful fusion engines that make them fast as hell. All in all, a very, very good design. So let's see if we can find some other ships. And here we are with other ships and how not to build ships. For example, this one here. You like that ship? Yes, it looks nice. It's armored all around like a big bad turtle, but the problem is it has only got one weapon with real range, the artillery. The rest of the weapons are rather close combat weapons. That means this ship with speed 3 and turning 4 will never reach its target alive. The armor is nice, but the armor will be thrown away and then the ship will simply die. This ship is too slow and armored on the wrong parts. It should have more firepower, more long-range firepower by spiral rockets with Overlord and rapid fire, and more engines, because yes, this might be good against fighters, but against anything else it's useless. This is wrong, because you're wasting your precious 2-on-2 square side places where you could place turrets. This ship will do no damage at all. As for the frigates, all exploration. Oh, this one is better actually. Look at this. Armored at the front so that it can take the initial barrage of getting close to the enemy, and then it can unleash a hell of a lot of rockets. It's not the fastest though. I would have traded some of the mass for more engines to get the ship into rocket range faster. Here's more of those. Yeah, this for example, too much armor. Disruptor cannons, nice because spiral, but the range is not enough for that speed. 8 speed with that range? No sir, not in 1,000 years. You will not reach your target alive. Go for fusion engines, that's my tip. And they're all the same build, I guess. Yes, they are. So that is not how to do it. Don't do armor. Armor does not win battles, weapons win. Armor in front, yes, to keep the ship protected. Armors on the side, no. And in the back, double no. So, I think that was it about ships and how to build them. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Bye!